Welcome to part 3. Before I explain the growing mental maps paradigm, I want you to understand what is needed. For 5 years, I was a volunteer instructor of first aid and CPR for the Red Cross. One of the lessons I taught was about the ABCs. In the context of CPR, ABC refers to airway, breathing, and circulation. The idea is that you have to deal with those things in that order. If a person's heart has stopped and she or he is not able to breathe through an open airway, then there's no point in manually circulating their blood. The circulation of blood that does not have any oxygen in it is useless. This is called an order of operations problem. If you fail to do the operations in the proper order, then you will not get the results you want. That is what is happening in most of our schools. They are failing at the order of operations. You'll see what I mean momentarily. The model of learning I am sharing with you starts from the concern for how we humans get from the now moment into future moments in a way that enables us to affect the new nows that follow. Learning requires a feedback loop, and that feedback loop needs to be one that is meaningful to all the humans that participate in it. The learning tree has 8 roots in the now moment, called the soil of the situation here. Those 8 roots are the primary human needs for air, water, food, shelter, sleep, relatedness, competence, and autonomy. Primary means that they are not derived from other needs. They have non-neutral effects on well-being, and they are universal across cultures. The roots come together into the trunk of well-being. The trunk of well-being is where whatever modicum of need support was found by the roots goes through a process that gives it our unique stamp of individuality. The aspects of individuality are driven by the energy of motivation through attitude structures by dual mind processes that produce engagement patterns. Engagement, in its various forms, creates the branches of experience. The outer area of the branches is where consciousness occurs, and we also find the leaves, flowers, and fruits of outcomes as well. I don't know if you know about real trees, but somewhere around 95 to 99% of the material substance of a tree comes from thin air. The seed of a giant sequoia is almost microscopic, but it can grow up to become one of the largest trees in the world. And the majority of the material out of which it builds itself is drawn from the air. Photosynthesis takes carbon dioxide from the air, uses energy from the sunlight to break off the carbon atom to build itself, and then exhales that oxygen. So the question is, where in this model does the majority of the substance and the input needed to integrate that substance into our individuality come from? First, the organizations and institutions to which we belong, such as schools and families, are the air that supplies the bulk. Second, the society, culture, and/or our ancestry are the light that enables us to combine our individuality with our group. That combination produces the leaves, flowers, and fruit of outcomes that also fall down to be mulched into our new nows. Thus, the model so far covers growing, but what about maps? There are actually 2 kinds of map in this model. The relationship between where the roots find need support and where that modicum of individuality contributes to the structure of a leaf, flower, or fruit forms the first map. In healthy circumstances, they should be roughly correlated. The second map in this model is formed by the canopy of leaves, flowers, and fruits. The individual's conscious ideas about how to attain what they need in life are determined by the shape of their canopy and how that canopy interacts with the canopies of other individuals they encounter. What might be called the manifest world that we consciously experience on a moment-to-moment and day-to-day basis is shaped by the outcomes we produce and how our conceptions of those outcomes are influenced by our context of organizations, institutions, society, culture, and our ancestry. This growing mental maps model of learning provides us with a basis for a substantive critique of reading first and suggests better ways to invest $6 billion. Recall that at the beginning of this video I talked about how the Red Cross teaches the ABCs of CPR. If we're trying to make the blood circulate for a victim whose heart has stopped, When their airway is blocked or they are not breathing, then we're wasting our time and effort. If we pump the blood with chest compressions of great skill and elegance, death is inevitable without oxygen in that blood. The problem is in the order of operations. Perfect performance on any given step will result in dead victims if we do not go through the steps in the right order. Highly inconsistent results and an overall failure rate are guaranteed when we don't get the order of operations right. Reading First failed because the delivery model that guided the policy doesn't include well-being, let alone place well-being in an order of operations. The learning tree model gives us the correct order of operations for education. The first thing to check out when you find a problem with learning is support for primary human needs. Using the tree model as a method of analysis, we can see that the lawmakers behind Reading First were trying to make a leaf grow without first making sure the roots of the tree were healthy. In fact, if they had attended to the roots of primary human needs first and then focused on reading second, they would have gotten different results. When the proper foundation for education is in place, then science-informed investments in targeted areas will pay off. Reading First might have worked if they had nourished all the roots of the learning tree instead of ignoring them in order to focus on one leaf. Of course, if policymakers really pay attention to the learning tree, they will also see that reading is a lot more than just decoding text. In fact, all of the knowledge, skills, and information, the content, that the mainstream system attempts to deliver, such as reading, are actually the means to achieve more important goals. They are not ends in themselves. All that content occurs in the leaves, not in the roots. The true goals are primary need satisfaction within cultural constraints. Each individual human is unconsciously looking for effective means to pursue goals rooted in primary needs that can only be fully realized by the individual within the culturally relevant affordances provided by the organizations and institutions in which they are embedded. Educators will serve their students best when they participate in a systematic effort to make it clear to children that their unique goals are important, and so long as they pursue them within the constraints of the cultural and societal context that we share. To be clear, their uniqueness is just as important as the cultural constraints. How they inform each other is where goodness, truth, beauty, and joy reside. And that is what education should ultimately aim for: goodness, truth, beauty, and joy. If you gave me $6 billion to invest in education, I would invest it in building the nurturing capacity of K-12 schools, where nurturing is support for primary human needs. My website, schoolsofconscience.org, is all about how to build the nurturing capacity of K-12 schools. Thanks for watching.